Hey everyone, Quaglon here. Do you have a hard time picking your favorite evolved weapon? Today, we're going to go in depth on each one and discuss their strengths and how each passive item benefits them. Quick disclaimer before we start. The footage in this video is from a modded game. I altered the starting weapon and number of rerolls and skips available in order to showcase each evolved weapon on its own. Nothing was changed that would alter the performance of any weapon. Now that that's out of the way, let's start with Bloody Tear. Bloody Tear is the evolved form of the whip and requires the Hollow Heart to evolve. Like the whip, Bloody Tear's attacks create horizontal slashes that originate from your character's torso. These slashes alternate sides and climb vertically as your amount stat increases. It has a 10% chance to critically hit for double damage and will heal you for 8 whenever it critically hits. Bloody Tear can benefit from a mount, which increases the amount of slashes, area, which increases the size of the slashes, luck, which increases critical hit chance, cooldown, which increases the rate of attack, and might, which increases damage. For Arcanas, Sarabande of Healing will double the healing amount from critical hits to 16 and deal 16 damage around you. Slash will allow Bloody Tear to crit for 4 times damage at the same 10% critical rate. Bloody Tear is a great starter evolved weapon with its unlimited penetration and healing properties. Spray and Pray is the Holy Wand way. Holy Wand is the evolved form of the magic wand and requires the empty tome to evolve. Once acquired, Holy Wand fires an unceasing barrage of magic missiles that automatically targets your closest enemy. To improve its power, you can increase projectile speed to make the missiles travel faster, area to increase the size of the missiles, amount to increase the amount of missiles, cooldown to increase the rate of fire, and might to increase damage. For Arcanas, Waltz of Pearls will allow Holy Wand's missiles to bounce up to 3 times, vastly increasing the damage potential. Holy Wand is a solid evolved weapon with very good damage output that can help you keep your distance from danger. The master of single target damage is here, Thousand Edge. Thousand Edge is the evolved form of the knife and requires the bracer to evolve. The vast number of knives fired from Thousand Edge will always travel in the direction you are facing, making it easy to focus down tough targets. Thousand Edge can benefit from a mount, which increases the number of knives, projectile speed, which increases the speed of the knives, cooldown, which increases the rate of fire, area, which increases the size of the knives, and might, which increases damage. For Arcanas, Iron Blue Will allow Thousand Edge to bounce up to 3 times and pass through enemies and walls. Slash will allow Thousand Edge to critically hit for 6 times damage, 50% of the time. This chance can be increased with the Clover's Luck bonus. Thousand Edge is an extremely deadly weapon, but does require a bit of aiming and management. It slices, it dices, it spirals. The Death Spiral is the evolved form of the axe and requires the Candelabrador to evolve. The spiral of size emanates from your character and spirals outward, piercing through all enemies in its path. Death Spiral can benefit from a mount, which increases the number of scythes fired, area, which increases the size of each scythe, projectile speed, which increases the speed of the scythes, cooldown, which increases the rate of attack, and might, which increases damage. Iron Blue Will Arcana will cause Death Spiral's scythes to bounce off the edge of the screen once, and Slash will grant Death Spiral a 30% chance to critically hit for 4 times damage. The chance can be increased with the Clover's Luck bonus. Death Spiral is a very reliable crowd-clearing weapon that only requires a bit of cooldown reduction to become amazing. Heaven's Sword isn't a Final Fantasy XIV expansion, it's just a really big sword. Heaven's Sword is the evolved form of the cross and requires the Clover to evolve. When fired, a sword projectile strikes the closest enemy and then boomerangs in the opposite direction and flies off screen. These swords have a 10% chance to critically hit for 2.5 times damage and also apply some pretty mean knockback. Heaven's Sword can benefit from a mount, which increases the number of swords, projectile speed, which increases the speed of the swords, area, which increases the size of the swords, cooldown, which increases the rate of attack, luck, which increases the critical hit rate, and might, which increases damage. The Slash Arcana will double the damage of Heaven's Sword's crits up to 5 times, and Waltz of Pearls will allow Heaven's Sword to bounce off the edges of the screen twice. Heaven's Sword can be a bit unreliable and arguably isn't that much better than the cross base weapon, so ensure you have the right build to really make this weapon shine. Like fire, Hellfire, this weapon burns everything. Hellfire is the evolved form of the Fire Wand and requires Spinach to evolve. Hellfire randomly launches slow-moving meteors that pierce through all enemies and walls, burning them to a crisp. This destructive weapon can benefit from a mount, which increases the number of meteors, area, which increases the size of the meteors, cooldown, which increases the rate of fire, projectile speed, which increases the speed of the meteors, and might, which increases damage. The Heart of Fire Arcana massively boosts Hellfire by causing enemies to explode, dealing half the meteor's damage in an area. Waltz of Pearls will cause the meteors to bounce off the edge of the screen once. While Hellfire is extremely powerful, especially with the Heart of Fire, its random nature can lead to unpredictable situations, so make sure you bring backup. The much loved and much reviled weapon with a pungent odor, Soul Eater is the evolved form of garlic and requires Pomarola to evolve. Soul Eater places a large black aura around the character which deals damage to any who dare enter. Enemies damaged by Soul Eater will take more knockback and become more vulnerable to freeze. Upon killing an enemy, there is a chance based on Soul Eater's damage dealt that a small heart will spawn which heals for 1. Soul Eater also scales in damage when the player is healed, but only when not at maximum health. Stat bonuses include Area, which increases the size of the aura, Cooldown, which increases the rate at which enemies in the aura take damage, and Might, which increases damage. Sarabande of Healing Arcana will double the healing from Soul Eater to 2 and trigger a pulse of damage for the same amount. This weapon may seem rather basic and unassuming, but it is the cornerstone of many defensive builds and absolutely wipes out large packs of weak enemies. Next up is the weapon that rains death from above. Borra is the evolved form of Santa Water and requires the Attract Orb to evolve. Bottles rain from the sky and douse the area around your character, creating damaging pools of holy water. These pools then slowly move towards your character, growing in size as they travel. Borra can benefit from almost every stat. Amount increases the number of pools spawned, cooldown increases the rate at which the pools spawn, area increases the size of the pools, duration increases the length of time the pools last. Both projectile speed and move speed will increase the speed and rate of size growth of the pools, with move speed having a bit more effect, and might increases the damage. Borra can benefit from many of the stat increasing arcanas, but does not have a specific interaction with any arcana. The great thing about this weapon is that it is versatile in creating overlapping defensive areas, but also at following you around while you're on the move. When combined with Garlic and King Bible, you have a nigh impregnable defense. The powerful piercing vampire laser that bounces around. No Future is the evolved form of Rune Tracer and requires armor to evolve. Lasers fire from your character and bounce around, dealing damage to anything they pass through. When they bounce, they trigger a damaging explosion. That same explosion also triggers whenever you take damage. No Future benefits from Duration, which increases the time each laser exists on screen, Cooldown, which reduces the time between laser barrages, Area, which increases the size of the lasers and the explosions, Projectile Speed, which increases the speed the lasers travel, Amount, which increases the number of lasers fired, and Might, which increases damage. No Future can benefit from many of the stat increasing arcanas, but does not have a specific interaction with any arcana. With such a powerful base weapon becoming even more powerful, No Future is one of the few weapons I'll always take due to its sheer damage output. With a big blast comes the next weapon. Mannajja is the evolved form of Song of Mana and requires Skullomaniac to evolve. Mannajja pulses circular waves out from your character that follow your character and cover much of the screen. Enemies hit by Mannajja slow down permanently. This weapon can benefit from Area, which increases the size of the waves, Cooldown, which increases the frequency of the waves, Duration, which increases the amount of time the waves exist, and Might, which increases damage. Mannajja doesn't receive any direct benefit from arcanas, but can benefit from some stat-increasing properties. Mannajja is a powerful weapon that can create vast areas of denial and allow you to easily get away from speedy enemies. However, be aware of the downsides of having Skullomaniac in your build. The Bombarding Birdie duo is here. Vandalier is the union of two weapons, Pichon and Ebony Wings. Two areas revolve around your character going in opposite directions. These areas are then rapidly bombarded by the bodacious birdie. Vandalier is the only evolved weapon which can level up. At max level, the benefits are plus 80% to area, and minus 0.75 seconds cooldown. On top of that, the Vandalier can benefit from area, which increases the size of the bombardment zone, duration, which increases the length of the bombardment, cooldown, which reduces the interval between bombardments, amount, which increases the amount of shots fired in the bombardment, movement speed, which increases the bird's movement speed, projectile speed, which increases the speed of the bombardment zone's move, and might, which increases damage. While it technically does benefit from movement speed, the difference is not noteworthy. Vandalier doesn't have any specific interactions with Arcanas, but does benefit from many of the stat boosting ones. This weapon is a long-term effort for a pretty good payout. Peachone and Ebony Wings can be difficult to use, and it can be hard to find them both, but the payoff is definitely worth it. The lightning that does strike twice. Thunder Loop is the evolved form of Lightning Ring and requires the duplicator to evolve. Lightning strikes random enemies and then strikes again shortly after, as indicated by sparkling circles left on the ground. Thunder Loop benefits from Amount, which increases the number of lightning strikes, cooldown, which increases the frequency of the strikes, area, which increases the size of the strikes, and might, which increases damage. Thunder Loop can only really benefit from two stat-boosting Arcanas, Awake, which increases might and area, and Boogaloo of Illusions, which modifies area. Thunder Loop is a very useful weapon that can fit into many builds due to its power and the required duplicator item. On to one of the few weapons that I would consider a pure utility weapon. Gorgeous Moon is the evolved form of the pentagram and requires the crown to evolve. When firing, moon symbols will appear on the ground, instantly killing enemies and creating unique experience gems. This ramps up and culminates by instantly killing the entire screen. Afterwards, all gems are then absorbed into your character as if you picked up a vacuum pickup. The only stat that can benefit Gorgeous Moon is cooldown, which reduces the time between firing sequences. No Arcanas can benefit Gorgeous Moon even indirectly. Overall, due to the nature of the pentagram weapon and requiring a crown, this weapon is one you take for very specific reasons, or if you already have a complete and winning build. The floating Roomba eyes are here. Vicious Hunger is the evolved form of Gatti Amari and requires Stone Mask to evolve. Giant eyeballs appear on the edges of the screen and travel in a straight line, damaging anything they come in contact with. They will even delete your precious experience gems and pickups. Upon killing an enemy, gem, or power-up, there is a chance it will turn into a gold coin. Vicious Hunger benefits from Amount, which increases the number of eyeballs, projectile speed, which increases the speed of the eyeballs, cooldown, which increases the rate the eyeballs spawn, duration, which increases the duration of the eyeballs, area, which increases the size of the eyeballs, luck, which increases the chance of creating gold, and might, which increases damage. No Arcana has specific interactions with Vicious Hunger, but it can benefit from many of the stat-boosting ones. This weapon is an endgame weapon that you'll want to get once your build is locked in. These eyeballs will stop you from picking up almost any XP, and can even delete the XP while it's on its way to you, so be careful when you evolve. On the bright side, since leveling up increases how hard the game is, this weapon can be a very good level limiter. Burn, baby, burn! Valkyrie Turner is the evolved form of Shadow Pinion and requires wings to evolve. While moving, flames will spawn behind you, fanning out and damaging enemies. When you stop moving, the flames fire like a laser in the direction you are facing. Valkyrie Turner benefits from Amount, which increases the number of flames spawned, cooldown, which increases the rate of the flame spawns, area, which increases the size of the flames and lasers, duration, which increases the lifespan of the flames, movement speed, which increases the weapon fire rate, and might, which increases damage. No Arcana has specific interactions with Valkyrie Turner, but it can benefit from many of the stat-boosting ones. This weapon can be very versatile in creating walls of flame that protect you as you do donuts in the center of the map. A very fun and unique weapon, however the lasers feel a bit misleading and won't damage everything they pass through, so be careful. One of the best defensive weapons in the game is none other than Unholy Vespers. Unholy Vespers is the evolved form of the King Bible and requires the Spellbinder to evolve. Once acquired, a perpetual clockwise circle of runes will orbit around your character, damaging anything it passes through. Unholy Vespers benefits from duration, which increases the length of time the runes exist, cooldown, which reduces the time to create a new set of runes, area, which expands the circle of runes farther out from your character, projectile speed, which increases the rate at which the runes rotate around your character, amount, which increases the number of runes orbiting you, and Might, which increases damage. Unholy Vespers can benefit from many of the stat-increasing Arcanas, but does not have a specific interaction with any Arcana. Be cautious when increasing the area of this weapon without increasing projectile speed, as this can allow enemies to more easily pierce the slower-moving, larger orbit. All in all, Unholy Vespers is a reliable pick in any run, and its powerful knockback can keep most enemies at bay. Wait, now we're allowing guns? Okay. Phieraggi is both a union and an evolution requiring 3 items: Phieraggi Tufello, 8 the Sparrow, and Phieraggi. Phieraggi fires lasers that rotate around your character and benefits greatly from your revive count, with each revive increasing the base damage and number of lasers by 1. Phieraggi also benefits from cooldown, which increases the rate of fire of the lasers, amount, which increases the number of lasers, area, which increases the size of the lasers, projectile speed, which increases the rotation rate of the lasers, and might, which increases damage. Due to its interaction with revives, Awake is a great Arcana choice. Phieraggi is an immensely powerful weapon, but can run into problems with not having all the correct items necessary for evolution. Be careful you don't eat your Phieraggi up before you evolve into Phieraggi. Whew, that was a lot of weapons. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe for more. As always, thank you all for watching, and see you next time.